Oh, hey. I just finished reading We Who Are About To by the apparently prolific New Age science fiction writer Joanna Russ. And yeah, I sleep on an air mattress. Ever since starting this channel, I have not DNF'd a book. I am just too slow of a reader to be picking up and putting down books, so I just commit to what I'm reading, even if that means that I'm sometimes going to get some drudgery. And this was the first book I came across that I got like 20 pages in, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I'll explain why in a minute. We Who Are About To starts off by explaining that some people have crash landed on an alien planet. Something happened that messed up their manipulation of space-time, and I found it pretty funny how they used that really overused analogy of like a piece of paper with two dots on it that they used in Interstellar. But I know that it wouldn't have been overused in 1977, but it was still kind of funny. So who's there? There's 5 women and 3 men. The main character is one of the women and is in about her 30s. It's not super clear. She seems to be a vegetarian and somewhat of a hippie. At least she's got like a ton of psychedelics on her. Other than the main character, we have the Grahams, Valeria and her husband Victor, as well as their daughter Lori. Lori is a coddled child and they're a rich family. There's also Natalie and Kathy, some young women, and Alan and John, some young men. Upon crash landing, they realize that they're in a bleak state. The planet has not very many resources, and they've got just a little bit of food and supplies. Things begin to get shifty as stress increases. People start punching each other, accusations fly, and the group devolves into a bit of an anxious mess. While the survival instinct of the rest of the characters kicks in, the main character reflects on their situation, thinking that they were pretty much dead when they landed there. Disputes arise over what they can do best about their situation, the most contentious of which is that the group wants the main character to begin repopulating the planet by having sex with Victor. But I'll stop there. That's pretty much all I can give away without giving away spoilers. Let's start positive in this book. My favorite part of it is the eeriness that's portrayed in the scenery. The planet that they land on is devoid of all life. So with no animals scurrying around, it feels ominously quiet. And I think that this is a hard concept to express in a book, and I think Russ does it expertly. The big challenge that many science fiction authors have to face is making a universe that feels alive, and I've talked about this in other reviews. But it's also difficult to purposely make something that feels uncomfortably and weirdly dead, and that's what Russ does so effectively here. It's like being at a school after hours or at an abandoned theme park. There's just this ghostly stillness to everything. She adds in all these really clever world-building elements, like how there's no stars in the sky, and these things just add up to an extremely melancholy reading experience. This sense of deadness works to emphasize the bleakness of their situation. They're hopelessly isolated, and nobody is coming to help them. With limited resources, they're living out their final days. On top of this, the main character battles some deeply depressive, intrusive thoughts, highlighting how she's had a very bleak view of the world long before she crash landed. I take pretty extensive notes when I read, and about 10 pages in, I noted, quote, "I don't like this prose, but I'm sure I'll get used to it." Let me tell you, I absolutely did not. The main character is recording this thing in what she calls a vocoder, and it's nearly unreadable. The sentences are choppy, and they're written in a way that feels like shorthand. The prose is non-linear and it's sporadic. It's often written as sort of audio journaling and would maybe be interesting for a page or two, but I hated it in long form. The book even literally cuts off mid-sentence sometimes. It's so frustrating. Like sometimes there are moments where the narrator is connecting with other characters, and it's meant to be very touching. There's humility and there's humanness in the acts, but it is completely lost because of the ridiculous way in which it's written. I tried reading out loud for a while, and I think it might have helped a tiny bit, but overall, it was just incredibly clunky to read. I really, really, really wanted to enjoy this book. I am definitely a chronic SSRI enjoyer, so I thought that the themes of bleakness and depression and hopelessness would be really validating to me. But a big gripe that I had with the dark introspection of the main character was that a lot of times it just came off as overly edgy rather than insightfully bleak. And like I said, I really like depressing monologues, but the main character just went over the top and ended up sounding like an edgy teenager who just learned about depression. which I can say because that definitely used to be me. Let me give you a few examples. On burying people, she says, quote, "I think they should be left out to rot day after day, so we'd get used to it and stop being afraid of it." And then later, quote, "Dead people are like sandbags, but in odd shapes because they keep folding up and because they're still warm." And now listen to this penetrating life analysis. And this will give you a good example of the god-awful prose as well. Quote, "Next day, don't know what day it is. Probably 5. Who cares? If history were not fantasy, then one could ask to be remembered, but history is fake and memories die when you do, and only God, don't believe it, remembers. History always rewritten. Nobody will find this anyway." It just comes off as overly callous and juvenile. All right, so this is the point where I conclude my spoiler-free review. But honestly, I just suggest that you don't read it and just keep listening to this review, but you're free to do what you want. So what happens next? As tensions arise and Victor seemingly dies of natural causes at the camp, the main character decides to flee. She goes super far away and she takes food with her, but after a while, some of the people come and try to bring her back. And what does she do next? She brutally and ruthlessly slaughters every single one of them. After doing this, she goes back to the camp and she shoots every remaining survivor, including the 12-year-old girl. The best praise I can give for this is that it's hard to read, so at least it causes emotions in me, but the action makes no sense. She claims that if she didn't do this, they would have raped her, but why did she need to kill like all the women and children then as well? So let's say you like all this ridiculous prose and this insight about death and dying and the loneliness of life. You're still getting it from a psychopath mass murderer. She honestly gives off like school shooter, defeated and dejected energy. It's gross. Oh my god, this hurts my shoulder. And the last like 40% of this book is the main character just slowly going insane as she dies of hunger. She does show some signs of remorse, but the vast majority of her musings are not just about how much life sucks, but also how bored she is. And holy shit, if you think being bored is boring, try reading about someone talking about how bored they are. Like, listen to this. Quote, "Dull, oh God, dull. Trying hopelessly to push the sun along. If you scream, will that move it? I can't get through the next minute. I know I can't. Count your fingers one way and then back. 19. Assigning them metaphysical values or pictures. House, book, Byzantine Empire, salvation, orthodoxy, burnt bacon, play, and so on. Do it backwards. Can you remember them? Clock watching, sun watching. The sun doesn't set directly in the back of the cave, but almost downstream. That's why I can't see it rise." What are we doing? The end is just ramblings, bro. She's a rambling, confused lunatic, not at peace with her life or her death. She dies alone the same way that she was before her crash landing. This book was a massive disappointment to me. The themes of this book checked every single box to a good science fiction classic to me. It had a diverse range of characters. It had themes of like the bleakness of humanity and the depressing isolation of life. And it had brutal violence. Yet, I could not have disliked it more. It felt immature, it felt sloppily written, and not well thought out. Every time I read a bad book, I'm reminded of something though. And that's that every bad book you read is probably someone's favorite book of all time. And while that's wild to me, I do recognize that people have different interests, and this could have hit that exact spot that someone was craving. But it was just not for me. Thanks for watching.